This tutorial is focused on how to get the most out of the search for on command. Now, this is not intended to be an exhaustive tutorial on this particular command because that already exists, but this tutorial is really designed more to give you an idea of how you can use this particular command to really enhance your internet research. So for example, here we have a short spell that begins with search for Bitcoin on Google. Then we're going to put all the links that appear on the search results page into list box 1. We're then going to remove any and all list box 1 entries that include google.com. Now the reason why we're doing that is because we're not really interested in a bunch of internal Google links that are circular in nature. We're really interested in data that exists out there on the World Wide Web pertaining to Bitcoin. So we're going to remove any and all items within list box 1 that contain google.com. Then we're going to save list box 1 to the file name g-bitcoin.txt. Now, because we're not including a full path to this text file, Alexia BASIC assumes that this should be saved in our cauldron. So that's in fact what will happen. So let's go ahead and cast this spell. We'll click on the cast button. We should see our web browser window below change and reflect a search for Bitcoin. There it is. And in a moment, we will have the links put into list box 1. We're going to then remove google.com from list box 1. And then finally, we're going to save list box 1 to file name g-bitcoin.txt. So let's go ahead and remove all of what's here. Now we're going to use an undocumented command called dir, or directory, and this is going to give us a list of any and all files within our cauldron. Now you're going to see there are a couple other files in this cauldron, but the file in particular that we're looking for is g-bitcoin, and sure enough, there it is, g-bitcoin.txt. So let's do the following. Let's empty all the variables that we may currently have in our Alexia BASIC system at the moment. So we went ahead and cast this short spell. Now let's do the following. Let's run the debug command, which will show us exactly what values are contained within all of our user input variables, as well as parameters that are sometimes included when we create Alexia BASIC spells. So it appears as if though we have not yet cleared out the parameters, but that's okay because in our case we're only interested in the user input variables being empty. So here we have number box 1 through 4, there's no data, word box 1 through 4, no data, and most importantly list box 1 through 4, no data. So what we're going to do next is we are going to use the load command, specifically the load from file name command. And so we're going to load listbox 2 in this case from file name. Oops, there's a slight typographical error. And the name of our file is g-bitcoin.txt. And so what this is doing is it will load listbox 2 from file name g-bitcoin.txt. So the contents of g-bitcoin.txt will be loaded into listbox 2. And then what we want to do is clear the emulated computer screen window, and then we'll go ahead and print the contents of listbox 2 onto our emulated computer screen window. And while we're at it, why don't we just go ahead and turn the web view off, just so that we don't necessarily have to keep seeing the contents of our having run the debug command a moment ago. So we went ahead and clicked on the cast button, and this happened very quickly. So here we have the contents of g-bitcoin.txt that we placed inside of listbox 2. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a bunch of links that all pertain to Bitcoin. So this is one way to really harness the search for on command so that we can actually gather a bunch of data, save that data to a text file, and then be able to review this data in more detail. Now, we can combine the original commands that we had, which were search for Bitcoin on Google, put those links into listbox 1, remove google.com from listbox 1, and then of course save listbox 1, the contents of listbox 1, the file name g-bitcoin.txt. We can combine this with, for example, search for Bitcoin on Twitter, right? Search for Bitcoin on Wikipedia, search for Bitcoin on Facebook, search for Bitcoin on YouTube. There are several different platforms that we can use in conjunction with the search for command, and by systematically saving that data to a text file, we then provide ourselves with information that we can personally review, information that we can send off to someone else to review, or information that once we have these individual links, we can actually analyze the data within each of these links with Alexia BASIC and use analysis commands to more finely tune which links are relevant to our needs and which ones are not. So this is just one way in which we can use the search for on command to its highest potential, and really this just scratches the surface of what's possible, but hopefully it gives you some more ideas. Thanks for watching. Now please subscribe to our channel.